It looks like it's trying. All right, let's see. Let me get my questions up. Oh, it says I am live. Well, it's not live on all the platforms yet, but that's okay. I'm just going to say hi to everybody while we wait for it to get live on all the platforms. I want to say hi. How you doing? I'm so excited to be here with y'all today. We've got two great questions to kick us off with our fireside chat. And before I get into those questions, I'm going to give you some overview, but just so you know what's coming down the pike, we're going to talk about should people invest in crypto right now. We're also going to talk about whether or not someone's got a question about whether or not their mom should quit. Well, they didn't say quit claim, but they said put me on the deed, which is usually a quit claim deed. So we're going to talk about those two questions. If you've got other questions about money and business, especially the intersection of money, business, and faith, I want you to go ahead and drop those questions in the chat. There's also today what I've done is that I have put the link to it's scrolling across the bottom of the screen right now. I put the link to the studio in there. So if you want to come on video, then you are more than welcome to come on video and ask your question on video. So now what's going to happen though, full disclosure, if you come on video, do be advised that your voice is going to end up on the Building Wealth Together podcast. And depending on how long it takes for us to edit this, it may not be the Building Wealth Together podcast by the time we edit it, because we are rebranding for 2024. Y'all, I'm so excited. I haven't been this fired up about my business in a long time. So I'm super excited about that. But if you haven't already seen it, then you need to get subscribed to my list, and you need to follow me on Facebook and other places at JJ Knows the Way, because you will get a sneak peek into that rebranding and what we're going to be doing in 2024. We're going to have a casting call for an upcoming documentary. We're also going to have a casting call for podcast guests coming in 2024. But let me just say again, we're really going to be, just so you know what's coming down the pike, just a little bit of a teaser and a hint to know if you're the right person to be on this podcast. We are looking for discussions that are at the intersection of money, business, and faith. So I'm super excited about this new move, and I'm super excited to be here with you today. Now, again, I have two questions coming up. One is going to be about investing in crypto. One is going to be about giving the house to your kids. And before I get into that, let me just let people know who's new to me and my body of work. Every Thursday, we try to do an empowering, uplifting, and encouraging class to help you build wealth without sacrificing your faith, right? And every first Thursday is our fireside chat. Every second Thursday is our 7-figure business building. So we look at how to build additional streams of income. Every third Thursday is investing in real estate. So it's real estate investing 101 all year long. Every fourth Thursday is our empowered entrepreneur. And that's where we look at how to grow into being the kind of person who does, and is what it is you want out of life. Okay. So that's our normal schedule. But what we're going to do starting next week is we're going to roll into Think and Grow Rich. So normally at the end of the year, we roll into Think and Grow Rich, which is a study of Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. And then we roll into our countdown to your best year ever. I'm excited, y'all. I'm excited. We were in Arlington, Texas for the Wealthy Me in 23 conference between Christmas and New Year's last year. And we're going to do the same thing this year. It's Wealth and More in 24. Y'all, it's going to be fantastic. I'm just giving you a little heads up. We're going to be back in the same place in Arlington on the 28th of December. Y'all, it's going to be fire. It's a way to kick your year off right. And it's a way to get resetted and replanted and regrounded into the things that are truly important so that you can make the money, have the business, have the abundance that you truly deserve to walk in. So, all right, with that, I'm going to do one more little announcement thing, and then we're going to answer the questions about crypto and the house. And again, if you have a money question, you can drop it in the chat. You can come on camera with me. I'll leave you in the waiting room until it's time to actually bring you up and answer your question, but you can come on the backstage with me and I'll bring you up when it's time to ask you and let you ask your question. And then you can also go to askjjc.com if you'd really like to be anonymous. All right. Well, before I do that, I want to get a shout out to Coach Jen Welter. She does some great football camps. My son volunteered to help with her her football camp her mini camp that she did at SportsCon. And I want y'all to do two things. Two things. Now, she's not paying me. She don't even know I'm doing this. She may not even remember me, y'all. You know how fleeting life is when you're a celebrity like that. The first female coach in the NFL, right? But I want you to do two things. I want you to go out to her website, and I don't think LinkedIn does it, but on Facebook and YouTube, I have dropped her website in the chat. I want you to go out to her website and connect with her and request information about bringing one of her camps to your town. It's called Gridiron Girls, and it's a fantastic thing that she's doing to uplift and encourage, okay? The other thing I want you to do, and this is one mama speaking to a bunch of others, and maybe you don't have kids today, but that's all right. But surely you had a mama, surely you had a daddy, surely you had somebody that stood in the gap. And if you didn't, you know what? That's okay. The Lord takes the solitary and puts them into families. And so whoever in your life has been encouraging you, surely you know how much they wanted you to succeed. And I want my son to succeed. So in that thing, in that chat with Jen Welter, email, website, I want you to also look at my son's Twitter page at Wiggy_D. And I want you to go to that Twitter page. I know most of you don't use Twitter, but go on. You got an account. You set one up back in the day when we thought Twitter was going to be the coolest thing. And now it's X, and now they want you to pay all this stuff, and nobody can figure out what's what right now. But just go out there and help a young brother out, all right? Just go and subscribe or friend or whatever Twitter/X calls it at WiggyD, all right? At WiggyD, WIGGI_D. Go ahead and connect with him on Twitter. And help encourage him when he posts his football pictures and his demo reels and all those things, okay? Just encourage the brother. All right. But you'll also see Jen Welter's encouragement of him and her analysis of him as a player and a leader. So, proud mama moment. Please go out there and check it out. Okay. So now let's go ahead and get to the questions. Let me get to the questions. I've got them. Normally I'm trying to flip back and forth between screens, but I was like, you know what? I'm about to go old school today. I went ahead and wrote them out. So I've got the first two questions written out. And again, if you have a question, you can drop it in the chat. You can come on backstage with me and actually be on screen with me. I'm willing to share the platform today because I think it would be fun to start getting that audience interaction and asking their money questions. But you can also drop an anonymous question at Ask JJC. Now, look, y'all can look at me and you can tell that I'm a little more tired than usual. It's been a day. There's been threats. There's been accidents. There's been all kinds of stuff. Nothing happened to me, but I was always tangential to all the things. So if you don't have a question, then this is going to be a real short fireside chat. I shouldn't have said that because it's almost like when the preacher says in my closing, and then they go another 2 hours, right? But I've got two questions. If I don't get any other questions, I'm going to go eat me some dinner and hang out on the couch with Mr. Man for a little bit, all right? So the first question, I love this question because it allows me to do a couple of things. First of all, it allows me to educate on what is and isn't an investment. And second of all, it allows me to address something that's taboo. In fact, it's so taboo in the business world right now that when I went to send the email to my audience to say, hey, we're going to be talking about this today, Keep said, nope. You cannot write crypto in the subject line of your email because that will get it marked as spam. You have to take crypto out. So I did what they used to do back in the day when they couldn't write free in the subject line. They would always do like fr.ee or fr-ee. So I went crypt-toe, y'all, because I was like, woo, it flagged it. It like, sometimes they give you a warning. They're like, hey, if you send this, you might get flagged as spam. But this one was like, it's so certain that you will get flagged as spam, we're not even going to let you send this one. So, that's a good email service provider. They're looking out for you. Really, they're looking out for them. But in looking out for them, they're looking out for you. Win-win, all right? So the question is, should I invest in crypto? I am going to answer the question talking about crypto, but first I want to lay some foundation about what is and isn't an investment. And so as some of the young people in my international church learned last month when I did their IAD academic excellence I forget what it's called, Emerging Leaders or something. Like, it's really a cool program, and I'm really bummed now that I'm like thought I was going to sound so cool and educated talking to you about how I got to do this thing for my international church, and I can't even remember the name of it. But anywho, it's for our young people in our international youth and young adult department, and we talked about investments, and we talked about how that fur is not an investment, that handbag is not an investment, that car is not an investment, because those are all things that go down in value. And investments are things that are expected to increase in value and make you money. Now, we understand that the market goes up and down and up and down and up and down. And so there's sometimes you invest, but you lose money, especially in the short term. There are also times when companies don't make sound decisions in the market. And so you could invest and lose everything, just like me and my ex-husband did when we put all our savings into Kmart stock following a hot tip from his brother's barbershop. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I made that mistake, so you don't have to. All right. Sometimes you can invest and lose everything, because right after we put all our life savings, y'all, we heard this hot tip from the barbershop that Kmart was going to split their stock. Now, I can talk to you about what the split means later, but usually when a solid company does that, it's a great opportunity for you to gain more shares and watch your profits increase. But in this case, they split that stock and then went bankrupt. So we lost everything. So sometimes investing doesn't make you money, but wise investments over time. And a tip from the barbershop is usually not a wise investment. But wise investments over time will generally make you money, right? And so that handbag is not going to make me money. That car is not going to make me money. In fact, if you buy a new car, and I'm not mad at you if you buy a new car, especially if you buy it in cash. If you lease in a new car, $900 a month on a 10-year plan. Now we got to have some words. You come to me as a financial planner, I'm gonna be like, why you do that? All right. But a car does not make an investment. And if you're using a car and you're saying I'm investing in this car for my business, then it's a business expense. It's not an investment. It's a business tool. What do you call it? It's not a business, it's not an office supply. What do you call it on taxes? Ooh, I gotta fill out my taxes, y'all. Oopsie. If my accountant is doing this, I thought I had sent them the taxes like 2 months ago. I was so proud of myself. And then this morning I was like, I don't hear anything back. Oh, I never actually sent the stuff. Oh, because I forgot this big donation letter I was trying to get a hold of. I'm trying to get credit for that. They made it. Okay, I know I'm on a tangent. They made it difficult for you to get your your tax credits for donations, and so I need that big donation letter in my tax package. So anyway, back to the subject at hand. There's a category for stuff that you buy. If you're buying a purse because it make you look good, you're buying those fancy shoes because they make you look good, you're buying that car because it makes your business look good and because you need a car back and forth. Well, those are things, but they're not investments. Unless you're buying a car, fixing it up and selling it at a profit. Then it's a what is that? Cost of goods sold. But it's still not an investment, okay? So then when we think about crypto, one of the things we have to realize with crypto is buying crypto is not an investment. Buying crypto may turn out to be an excellent decision later. Buying crypto may turn out to not be an excellent decision later. We don't know, but it's not really an investment. Now, in the truest sense of the word investment, if you are buying crypto expecting a return over time, then you might consider it as an investment. But what most people would call that is speculation. And at the very best, we might call it a speculative investment, which means this thing is wild. Nobody has any information on whether it's going to make money or not. It's all over the map, but we're going to throw some dollars at it anyway, because if this becomes the next Apple or Microsoft or Google, we don't want to miss the boat. Right. And so I'm not mad at somebody who speculates by buying crypto, but I, as a financial planner, I'm not going to label that investing. I hope that makes sense today. Okay. Now I'm buying crypto and I'm investing in companies and technology companies that produce technology to do crypto. Like, that's what I recommend. Now, if you are not the kind of person who already has a firm financial standing, that's not where I recommend you put your retirement funds. But you want to skip a pizza and buy crypto. You want to skip some McDonald's and buy pizza. I'm not going to be mad at you, but I'm going to ask you to have your foundation first. I'm going to ask you to have yourself out of debt. I'm going to ask you to have yourself a good, healthy emergency fund and not spend it all on speculatory investments or hot tips from the barbershop, right? I'm going to ask you to have yourself a good padding, be free of debt, and have your retirement and your, if you have any children, their 529s or some kind of college savings underway before we get to the point of buying crypto. Because speculatory investments, speculation is just that. We don't know. We don't have enough information to make an informed decision. And sometimes everybody could be on a bandwagon and everybody could be so wrong. Now, if you haven't been with me for a length of time, you may not have heard the story, but even if you have, I think it's still a great illustration. I've got in my safety box, I've got $2,000 worth of Iraqi dinars. And back in, what was it, 2005 when we bought them, 2006 when we bought them, that's how much they were worth. Do you want to know how much $2,000 in 2008 worth of Iraqi dinars is worth today? It's like 25 cents. Why do I hang on to this stack of bills that's worthless? Do I think that at some point things are gonna change and they're gonna be worth something? I don't know. Maybe someone will, maybe they'll become the next Beanie Babies. But I keep them because it's a reminder. The same couple who threw their entire savings at Kmart after a hot tip from the barbershop and lost everything the next day turned around 6 or so years later and invested in Iraqi dinars. Why would somebody buy foreign currency? Well, a lot of people, when there's a war fought and that nation rebuilds, a lot of people involved in the rebuilding of the nation buy the currency of the new nation with the expectation that as that nation stabilizes and as their currency gets more what's the word I'm looking for? As the currency gets more stable and as it gains more power, as it becomes worth more on the world field, because when you create a new country or you install a new government and you create a new currency, well, that currency isn't worth anything yet. The world doesn't know if you're going to actually succeed as a country yet. So the world doesn't give you a good exchange rate. But over time, the nation stabilizes, the currency stabilizes, it's seen more favorably on the world markets. And then what back then, maybe you could get, I'm not explaining this well. I'm so sorry, y'all. But back then you could get, let's say let me give you an example. When I was in Germany, you could get 4 German marks to $1. But by the time I left Germany after the fall of the wall, you could buy 1.5 German marks for $1. So the German mark had become much stronger against the dollar. Why do I mention that? Because currencies change. So when you've got a foundational currency, maybe you're spending $1 and getting 1,000 Iraqi dinars. And what we were all thinking was in about 10 years, 1 Iraqi dinar might be worth $1. So if you bought $1's worth and you got 10,000 dinars, now you've got $10,000. That was a speculatory investment. It was a half-informed investment because we thought, oh, well, this is what happens with countries. But one of the problems with that kind of investment is some countries never stabilize. Some countries never make it. Some countries get overrun and there's a new coup. Okay, so translate that to crypto. Now, before we translate that to crypto, I'm going to give you another example of a speculatory investment. Okay, some of you may have heard this. Back in 1997, when I graduated from the Air Force Academy, and I went off to grad school, there was this brand new wonderful thing called the internet, and I started building websites for people. Now, look, I'm going to claim it until somebody tells me otherwise, but I do believe I was the first Black woman owned web host and design and web designer out there, right? I was designing all these things for people, all these business sites for people back in 1997, including the person who came up with the idea that later on would become Waiter and DoorDash and all of that. And I really felt bad for her because I don't think she ever made the money they made, right? But anyhow, back then there were all these credit card processors. Okay, so you had PayPal came out, you had this one, you had that one, you had all of these credit card processors for being online. It was a new space. People were still feeling out the space. And the idea of online currency made a lot of people squeamish, but other people were like, I need to make money. And so I had to learn as a web designer and a web host who would build a business page for somebody and host it on my platform. I had to learn how to use all these different web host platforms. Now, had I been in an investment mindset back then, I was actually trying to get out of debt, so I didn't have the investment mindset for this back then. Had I had the investment mindset back then, I would have done what some other people did, which was they invested in PayPal, they invested in Humboldt, they invested in this one, they invested in that one. And as everything has shaken out, you haven't heard of any others because guess who's reigned supreme? PayPal. Now there's a couple of other, there's Google Pay and Apple Pay, but 10 years ago, those things weren't mainstream. And now PayPal's at a point where you can go into a brick and mortar store and use it. Well, there were like hundreds of these things. And I maybe learned 20 of them, okay? To invest in those would have been speculatory because we know that something's going to work. You're not going to have this amazing new platform called the internet and not have people figure out how to profit from it. Okay. So we knew something was going to stick, but we didn't know it was going to be PayPal. And that's the same way that crypto is right now. We don't know. We know that just like with the dinars, that countries, they morph and change, but the people don't go away. People are always there. Okay. People don't stop living there unless there's, a nuclear thing. Well, I shouldn't use that example. But the people are still there, but the dinar is not doing anything, right? On the credit card processor, the online processor side, PayPal is out there. The other ones aren't. We don't know. So if you translate that into crypto, you've got Bitcoin, you've got all these different coins. There's some out there that are actually kind of offensive. And I was like, what the what? So you got all kinds of different coins and people are constantly coming up with new ones. And we don't know what's going to stick. Now, some informed research that people have told me, well, I think this one's going to stick or that one's going to stick. And I haven't done the research, to be honest with you. That's why I'm not sharing the name. But if you get me over a cup of coffee, I might tell you what I'm buying. And what I'm buying is based off the research that others have done until I can do my own research, right? So I'm not going to be mad at you for buying crypto, but please don't call it investing in crypto. Okay? Can we just have that kind of an understanding between friends? I am buying crypto. I am speculating as to which platforms I think are going to go. I've got different platforms that they give you a little piece of this coin and that coin for doing education. And I go in from time to time and I earn a little piece of this coin, a little piece of that coin. And you know what? It may come to something. It may not. I don't know. But I'll tell you what I'm not doing. I am not buying crypto with my retirement funds. And I am not buying crypto with my son's in 529. And I am not buying crypto with my self-directed IRA, which is what is part of my retirement. And I'm not buying crypto with a self-directed Coverdale, which is designed to make massive amounts of money for your children's education. And if you've never heard of a self-directed Coverdale, I might need to talk about that later. In fact, let me put that on my list. If we have time, I'll talk about a self-directed Coverdale because it's a fantastic thing. I used to poo-poo the Coverdale as a financial planner because you could only put $2,000 a month in there. I mean, $2,000 a year in there. But the fact that you could self-direct that thing and you could turn that $2,000 into 70, 90, $100,000 a semester. You can kid your kid to any college like that. All right. We'll talk about that later. Let me put that down here. Now, if y'all have questions, drop them in the chat for me. Okay. If y'all have questions, drop them in the chat for me. Otherwise, I'll probably talk about the self-directed Coverdell. All right. Coverdell. Dell, not Dale. I know I'm saying that. I know I'm picking up a little bit of a southern accent since I moved to Texas, but it's Coverdell. All right. Okay, so the short answer to the question, should I invest in crypto, is you should buy crypto, but please don't consider it an investment. It's not the same as investing in an index fund. I like index funds for people who don't have other investments going on or don't have time to follow the market, because basically what the company is promising you is they're going to give you the same return as the market. They're going to give you the same return as the Dow Jones, if it's a Dow Jones index. If it's an S&P 500 index, they're going to give you the same return as the S&P 500. And ideally, they're doing it by buying in each of those companies, right? That's usually what's advertised. Now let's be real. If they can manage it a little better, they might invest in other things and kind of morph that around and get you, get them a little better rate, but they're promising you a particular rate. I like index funds. They're easy. They're set it and forget it. And I know everybody wants to be an expert in everything, but as I've gotten older, I have found that it's much more efficient using my time, my money, and my resources to let somebody else be the expert. And so if I can just go ahead and set it and forget it, I'm going to do that all day long, and I'm going to stay in my lane of brilliance. All right. So I'm not going to be mad at you for buying crypto, but I will be mad at you for buying crypto if you empty out your entire savings to do so, call it an investment, and then end up like me the day after Kmart went bankrupt. I was the worst feeling in the world. The news was out of my work center. I think I was just put on captain. Had I just put on captain? I think I had just put on captain, or I was about to put on captain. I might have still been a lieutenant, a first lieutenant. And we're listening to the news, and we hear the news that Kmart split their stock, and I'm getting all excited. Like, I can't wait to tell my coworkers how rich we're going to be. And we're going to do like the other guy, my ex-husband's coworker, and retire because he invested into the tech boom, and it boomed, and he got out before it crashed. I was so excited. I was going to be like, I'm going to stick it to this Air Force. Y'all, they talked about it split. And then later on, it came back on, and it kept coming. It kept coming on. It kept coming on. And this Kmart just went, yep, dead in the water. And it's interesting, when those companies go bankrupt, they don't always close. Kmart held on for a little while, but we lost everything. They restructured, and whole new group of investors got to lose in the next round. Okay, so that was the crypto question. That was fun. I hope y'all enjoyed that. Okay, so the next question I have, and I won't take as long on this one because there's not as much to explain, is should my mom add me to the deed? So I'm guessing this is somebody whose parent is getting older. They want to make sure that the child gets the house, okay? And so I love the fact that we're asking this question, because a lot of times we don't like to think about things like losing a loved one. We don't like to think about the fact that we're dying, and we certainly don't like to think about who's going to get what, because we don't want everybody fighting, and we don't want everybody to be mad at us. One of the biggest things that I am finding to be freeing for me is that now that my oldest son is about to be 18 in a couple weeks here, I have been educating him about, here's the insurance policies, here's where this is, here's the stuff that I have, here's the stuff that I have, here's the stuff that when I pass away is going to dad and your brother, here's the stuff when I pass away that's going to you. Now look, I don't want him to try to make me go away any sooner than I have to, but I don't think he's that kind of kid, right? Otherwise I wouldn't be leaving him all this stuff. I wouldn't be leaving him all this stuff if I thought he was that kind of young man. I shouldn't say kid anymore, right? Because in a few weeks he gonna be legal. So he'll be able to vote. Oh my goodness, y'all. Ooh, I don't think I've been educating him about politics. I need to step up my game as a mama. All right. So for me, it's been actually very freeing, because it's allowed me to know that I'm doing my job to take care of my family. And at one point, my little one will get to that age, and we'll sit down and have those conversations. And I will hope that he will take over my company if the big one doesn't. But because the little one is really good on camera, but the big one is too. It's just not his desire, right? But all those kinds of things, we don't like to talk about those kinds of things. We don't like to have the conversations. And so I love the fact that this person and their mother are having this conversation about adding him or her to the deed. And so I want to talk a little bit about that, because a lot of times that's not actually the best way to do it. Okay. So there's a couple of things, and I forgot to grab some paper. So let me see if I can get some without knocking things over. So if y'all have seen boxes, if you've seen any of my home pictures and you've seen all the boxes and the bins, I'm trying to rearrange stuff and trying to pack things up and move things where they need to go. And it's just been it's been a thing. I'm still unpacking stuff from retiring from the Air Force 23 years ago. All right. I'm going to explain why this is usually not the best thing to do. And then I'm going to give you some other alternatives. But if nothing else, okay, let me just say before I say all this, because I don't want to lose people. If nothing else, if the only way to make sure that you get what your parents have promised is for them to put you on the deed now, then okay. But I would rather you do one of these other things. But if you're worried about fraud, or if you're worried about people challenging the will, if you're worried about this, that, and the other, then go ahead and do it. But it's just not the best. And I'm going to show you why it's the best. And the reason why it's not usually the best is because of taxes. Okay. So I'm going to put taxes, transfer after death. I didn't align that very well. Okay. So if you have a house, I'm going to put this house in the middle. Here, you have a house. Got a door, got some windows. That's a happy looking house, don't y'all think? That's a nice, happy looking house, right? So you've got a house, okay? And your mom bought it for $30,000 in 19. Let's skip the lead law. So let's make it 1980. So we don't have to worry about the lead laws, right? I think that was 1976. Okay. Mom paid $30,000 for it in 1980. That's the use case we're starting off with. When mom dies in let's say 2020. So when mom dies in 20, let's give her 2 more years. She's having this conversation now. I imagine she's probably not going to be here long. Or she's like me. She expects to be here another 30 years, but she doesn't want to have to remember this stuff, right? Because I could get in another car accident. Now, look, I'm not trying to be morbid, and I'm not trying to invite the devil into my life. I believe the Lord has covered me in the blood, and I'm expecting that he has a lot for me to do, or he wouldn't have saved me these last couple of car accidents, right? So I'm not trying to speak death into my life. I want to speak life into my life. And one of the biggest things that I've learned about life is when you plan for contingencies, and you plan and have that emergency fund, and you plan for the different things that could happen, when you put those plans in place, in my life and my observance, the enemy goes and finds somebody else to mess with, because it's no fun to mess with somebody who's got everything together. But that doesn't mean we trust in those plans. Now, we can't trust in those plans, but we can lay them out before the Lord, right? So I'm just going to say, okay, 2025, mom dies. And now that little $30,000 property that they bought 45 years ago is now worth, let's say, what would be a good number that I've actually seen? Like, I'm trying to be realistic, okay? You know what? In where my mom had her house in Sacramento, not Sacramento, Oak, Travis Air Force Base, whatever city is by Travis Air Force Base, they paid $30,000 for that. They sold it 10 years ago for $250,000, I think. And so now that house is probably worth about $450,000, $475,000. So we're going to call that $475K. Okay. So let's say the house is worth $475K. Okay. If mom puts you on the deed now, okay, your tax basis. Now, I am not a CPA. I've got an amazing CPA. Her name is Avera Koya. She's the Wealth Building CPA. You can find her at wealthbuildingcpa.com. Okay. I am not a CPA. This is just a broad general concept. All right. But the tax basis is going to be $30K. Okay, so the tax basis is 30K. So when you inherit this house, and because it's in some place you're never going to move to, and it's an old raggedy 45-year-old house that's going to take way too much more for you to renovate than you really want to do right now, so you decide you're going to sell it and pocket the 475,000. Okay, sale for 75K. So now you're going to owe taxes on 475 minus 30, which equals 445,000. Okay, you are going to owe taxes on $445,000 because mom put you on the deed with her. There was no sale, there was no transfer on death, and your basis is her basis, which was $30,000 back in 1980. Okay, and so if mom puts you in the will and the house goes to probate and your greedy sisters and brothers don't challenge the will and you actually end up with the house and decide to sell it, your tax basis, wait, I should put this on here. Okay, on deed today. All right, just so that people who see this later do it. So on deed, yeah, transfer at death. Or probate. Okay, when you get the property through the legal process of your parent dying, and then you are named as the beneficiary of that property, the heir to that property, now your tax basis 475K. So if you wait a year or two and it goes up to 500K and you sell it, you only pay taxes on the 25. If you get the property today and you sell it tomorrow, then or in 2025, whenever mom dies, then your tax basis is 475K, and 475K minus 475K of sales price equals zero tax to be paid on. Okay, let me draw that out. Equals zero. All right. So that's why I don't recommend mama add you to the house. Now, if mama bought the house last week, well, that's different. The tax basis is already what it is today, right? And unless you're going to live in that house, well, actually, even if you were going to live in the house, if like if mom wants to buy the house and put you on it and transfer that, and you're going to live in it, no kidding, live in it, then that's fine. If she's going to put you on it today and she's only got a couple years left, well, that's fine. Now you may, depending on the medical intricacies, not want to do that because, because it's not a way to evade. It's not a way to evade having to use up your estate before going into state or government funded nursing homes or Medicaid. Is it Medicaid or Medicare? Whichever one it is, right? Okay, so that's a different conversation. I am not giving any advice on that conversation. There are ways to handle those situations, and we're not talking about those today. Okay, but this basically, this illustration is why I don't recommend parents putting their children on the deed right now, unless you have a variety of situations. And I already gave first one. You got greedy sister and brother who gonna take that house out from under you. And somebody listening to me is like, well, the will take care of that. Honey, they can take care of a will. Unless you are because wait, let me fill that back. You do know that wills get challenged, right? You do know that wills get changed, and you do know that the parent that created the will can say, I want this to go to this person, and that person, and new wife can come in and say, no, that's not really how it needs to be. And it's funny because I have a family member who the dad died and the new wife is challenging the will. And when I first met this person, they were like, well, there's a prenup. And I'm like, prenups, they almost don't mean anything, because there's always a way to get around the prenup if the living spouse has a in with the lawyers, right? So again, that's not this conversation, and I am not prepared with the research to have a very adequate conversation on that. But let me just say, wills and prenups and all the things, they fail, and they fail often, because somebody who's greedy and gets their claws into somebody who can help them, what do they call that, collusion, they collude together to take what you need. It happens all the time. Another situation where I'll say, unless, don't do this, unless, don't do this, unless you have a parent that refuses to write a will. And I've had several financial planning clients come to me, and by then their parent has gone senile, and they're not legally able to either write the will or do this. And then everything that was promised to that child, the other siblings are spending away or siphoning away or stealing away. I had one unfortunate soul, y'all, this broke my heart. And I was like, you have to get legal counsel, because I don't know what else to do. This client literally gave up their career to take care of the parent for 3 years. And they were supposed to get the house that they were living in. And not only did the siblings cut that individual out of the house, sell the house out from under them, they also cut them out of a piece of the business, the family business. And it broke my heart. But there was nothing in writing. It was all verbal. And sure, the law says, in most states, the law says we'll split this equally amongst children. But you know what? There's some laws that say we'll split this way, and we'll split things that way. And you get enough people colluding together, and you could be left. I was about to say you could be left holding the bag, but in this case, you won't get any bag. All right. So if you're in that kind of a situation where your parent refuses to write a will, or your parent refuses to put you as a transfer on death in the deed, okay, then that's a situation where you can just go ahead and have them add you. Now, I personally prefer that you do a transfer on death. Okay, if you're concerned about probate and concerned about the will, transfer on death is also a great way to get that. And you can do transfer on death clauses. I don't know what is going on. I don't know what is going on with my computer right now. Something's going on with my computer. Y'all give me a second. Something is going on with my computer. I don't know what's going on, and I can't seem to fix it. Hopefully y'all can still hear me okay. If you can hear me okay, and if you can see me okay, let me know, because my computer screen is going wild right now. Okay, give me some likes, some loves, or something in the chat to let me know. Because I'm trying to, and it's just, maybe I've got too many tabs open. Okay. Okay. So hopefully y'all can still see me. It's not going crazy anymore. All right. So it, rather than them quit claim and put you on the current deed as a current owner, my preference for this reason would be that they do a transfer on death, or that they put you in the will, or that they put you in a trust, so that, or they put the property in a trust for you as the beneficiary. Okay. And so because that avoids you having to pay taxes on a property if you're going to sell it. It also the higher level of protection you go. And again, I'm not a lawyer, so you got to consult your own legal counsel before you implement any of this kind of advice. But the higher in protections you go, the harder it is for somebody to come behind your parents and take away what they outlined for you. Okay. And so, like in my case, with I have a first son from a different marriage, and I joke with my husband, but I'm joking, but I'm not joking. If I go first, it's not that I don't trust you. I just don't trust whoever you might marry. Because I want to make sure that my oldest has been through thick and thin with me. I'll never forget sleeping on that moldy basement apartment floor, because there was only room in that bedroom for one little tiny bed. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget the times when he and I would go from store to store to store, getting free samples, because I didn't have enough money to keep the lights on and feed him. Okay. And it was a shame, because I was, at the time, I was a major in the Air Force. I made good money. But when you're $800-something in debt, well, you can make all the good money you want, but I still had to call up people and say, I can't pay this bill. I can't pay that bill. right? And so he suffered with me through all of those years. He's, and it's funny because you try to make things good for your kids so they don't realize what you're going through. And I remember I would play it up like, we're going car camping. No, really, mom just didn't have money for a hotel. Car camping. We're going to watch movies and we're going to go and we're going to pee outside. No, mom couldn't afford a hotel. I got really good at figuring out what rest stops we could sleep at. We got really good at camping on the beach or camping out in the forest and car camping. And sometimes we went real camping, but usually it was car camping. And those were the days, right? But I don't want to build this multi-million-dollar business that when I pass away, by law, because it's part of the marital estate, goes to my husband, and then my firstborn doesn't get anything. He deserves something. He put up, well, he didn't have a choice, but he was with mama through her worst days. And all those years as a single parent, dropping him off at 6 in the morning at daycare, picking him up at 6 at night at daycare, just to turn around and go back to work as a single mom. You know what? He deserves something. Now, I expect that, when he gets to be old enough, he's already earned his own something, so, but, I want to leave him something. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to be afraid of it. But I understand, because I've had so many clients come to me, that most people are not willing to have those conversations. And I want to tell you today, if you're watching me today, I want to encourage you to have those kind of conversations with your children and with your aging parents. You know why? Because I have people in my family who still aren't talking to each other over $1,200 of insurance money. And I have a whole family drama and rigmarole over my father passing away, and he didn't even have anything to be worth fighting over, y'all. He didn't even have anything to be worth fighting over. And in that time of grief, and we're trying to figure out how to bury him. We're trying to figure out who gets what. We're trying to figure out what to do with his property. We're trying to figure out what to do with all this stuff. And that's not the time to be making those decisions. And I really do believe that the final way that we can say, I thank you and I love you and I care about you and I want the best of you for our families, is to have all of our plans in place. Let them know where they can find the accounts and all those things. I'm not saying you have to give it to them right now, but have it where they can find it, and have insurance. Have an insurance policy. Have an insurance policy. I heard a financial planner say one time, an insurance policy is the last I love you you'll ever say to your family. And I thought that was really nice. Now, I'm not a big fan of whole life or long-term universal life policies. I'm not a big fan of those, except in certain situations. But if you've got family depending on your income, if you've got a property that's not paid off and you want your kids to have it, well, then I really want you to sit down and think about what's going to happen when you pass away. Think about what insurance needs to be in place today. Think about what plans, if you're not going to get insurance, because for some of us, we got medical issues and other things. You can't easily go get another insurance policy, but think about what you can do right now to make the burden easier on your family. After the dust settled some with my father, I called up my mom and I said, Mom, do you have everything in place? And she said, I've got trusts for this and insurance for that. And I was like, do you have an executor? Like, my dad hadn't even named an executor. He didn't have a will to name an executor of his estate. I was like, do you have an executor of estate? And my mom said, your brother. And I was like, whew, thank you, Jesus, because I don't want to go through that again. Let him handle all that. I don't want to have to deal with all that. Once was enough. But y'all, really, for real though, I think it's important to have those conversations. It gives you more peace. It gives your family more peace. And it may be difficult if you have a cantankerous and contentious family, but at the end of the day, it makes life so much better for those that you leave behind. Okay. So I'm gonna recommend that you do that. And I thank you to the person who sent in this question. Now I'm gonna check real quick. I'm gonna go look at Ask JJC. I don't see any questions in the chat, so I might talk a little bit about the self-directed Coverdale. If I don't have any questions, in askjjc.com. Or you can add a question to the chat if you'd like to. Come on, responses. Okay. Let's see. Ooh. Okay, but those aren't okay. Oh, well, thank you for leaving me a testimonial. Oh, I feel bad now. Somebody said they really love the daily email, and I haven't done that since we moved to Keep. I want to go back to it though. The daily thoughts. Y'all like the daily thoughts? It was a picture with a few words, real easy, no long-winded JJ typing about this, that, and the other. Just a picture and some words, real easy and encouraging and uplifting. I think we might start that back up again. I hope that's been interesting to you. Let me hold that up a little bigger so y'all can see it there for those of you who are watching online. Now, if you're listening to me as part of the Building Wealth Together podcast, which will soon be rebranded, so it may not be Building Wealth Together by the time this actually gets edited and published. But if you're listening to this as part of JJ Conway's podcast, you feel free to go out to my YouTube channel or my Facebook page at JJ Knows the Way, and you'll be able to see the video and you'll be able to see the graphic that I just drew out. All right, last thing I'm going to cover, and then I'm going to go get some dinner and hang out with Mr. Man for a little bit. And that is the self-directed cover deal. So there's different kinds of retirement accounts. Now, if you haven't heard about the news about the 529 plan, this is fantastic, y'all. Now, there's the rules are starting in 2024. If you have had a 529 plan for at least 15 years, and the funds in that plan that are not used are at least 5 years old, then you can take those funds and convert them to an IRA for the beneficiary. So all these years I've been saving for little man's and also Cubby's 529 education. If little man gets a full ride scholarship, and I stop paying to that while he's at college, when he gets out of college and works another year, assuming a 4-year degree, we can that account will have been there long enough, and that money will have been there long enough. We can convert that money into a IRA for him, so that when he becomes 65, he's a multimillionaire and didn't have to do anything. Win-win. All right. So that's a new change with the 529 plan. And that's the plan that a lot of people are more familiar with in saving for kids' college educations. However, there's another plan that you don't hear talked about as much. The only places I really hear the Coverdale talked about is when it comes to people who actually move and shake when real estate. And the reason I'm saying that is because the Coverdale has a special provision, unlike a 529, which is a state administered plan. A Coverdale can be set up through a trustee house, and you can do a self-directed Coverdale. So what is this Coverdale? Coverdale is an educational savings account that you can put $2,000 a year per child into. Now, 529 is a different kind of account. It is also an educational savings account, but there's no limit to the amount of money that can be put into it. Now, there are restrictions on what it can be spent on, and one thing a Coverdale has over a 529 is you have the limits, but a Coverdale can be used to go to private school, like K through 12, right? And you can't do that with a 529. 529 is specifically for college. Okay, so a lot of times people prefer the 529. You can put more money into it. Multiple people can put more money into it. So, everybody, say you have 10 wealthy family members and each of them wants to put their gift exclusion in there every year for your child. They can do that. A Coverdale, it's $2,000 per kid, period. Right? So why would you ever want to do that? Well, one, you could use it to save for, it's a way of saving for private education. Although when I had my son in a private school, that was like $10,000 a year. That wasn't no $2,000 a year. Okay. But here's how the people I know who I know are using Coverdales are using them. They are creating self-directed Coverdales, which self-directed means you choose the investments, and they are using the money to partner with their self-directed IRA or some other way of partnering to invest in real estate. Now, here's the beautiful thing about it, y'all. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. If I set up, and I haven't done this yet because whatever reasons, all right. But if I set up a $2,000 Coverdale, a $2,000 a year Coverdale for my son, and I partner with my self-directed IRA, which I do use for real estate investing. Okay. These two entities partner on a real estate deal. Just because this one put in $2,000 and this one put in $100,000 doesn't mean that the profit has to be split even Steven. In fact, it's split however you draw up the agreement. So let's say, and this is how the people that I know who are using Coverdale's use them, they take the $2,000 account for their son, they take their own IRA for 100, they partner together, they buy a property, but their operating agreement gives the bulk of the profit back to the Coverdale. So you can very easily, if you know how to real estate invest and you know how to flip homes and things like that, you can very easily pay for all 4 years of college through real estate investing tax free. I like that. All right. I'm all about legal ways to be tax free. So I hope that's been educational for you. I hope that's been something that's going to help elevate your financial standing. And since I don't see any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and sign off for today. But I want to thank y'all for being here with me. And again, if you're listening to me as part of the podcast, make sure you join us every Thursday night, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern. We do these broadcasts and we do them live, and you have the opportunity to ask your question live. We didn't have any questions asked live today. That's okay, because my belly is not going to be mad at you. But but sometimes we're here for hours because I stayed till the last question is answered. But I hope y'all enjoyed that. That's all I have for you today. Y'all take care and be blessed.